What is good governance? To dedicate his service to the people selflessly.
We have the least amount normally deducted every month at source as the Federal Ministry of Finance, because we never took loans. We have only 19% being deducted every month. So 81% of federation account money always comes to our state.
At the law school, if you are found cheating, either at examination or wherever, you are barred for life.
Fake drugs and unwholesome foods are weapons of mass destruction. Anti-counterfeiting, therefore, must be a war by the people, for the people, against these merchants of death.
Our heart goes out to the families of the victims of the recent plane crash at Ifo, Ogun State. I can't tell you that I can imagine what you're going through. It's unimaginable. But the Almighty God is not unaware of your circumstances. No problem is too big for him to solve. I am confident that he will comfort you. The recent plane crash has brought to the fore the issue of management of emergency situations in Nigeria. How prepared are we really for emergency situation? What are the challenges? And so today on the program, we shall look at the workings of NEMA, the agency charged with this responsibility, that is the National Emergency Management Agency. You're watching Discourse. Please stay with us.
Discourse will be back in a moment. Stay tuned.
Shine your eyes, Nigerians.
Nigerian people, shine your eyes, shine them well, make you for the see what thing they happen for town. Shine your eyes, shine them well. I say some wicked people them for we country, yo. Them no value human being life at all. Now them they make, they sell fake drugs where they kill and they wound our people today. So Nigerian people, make we join the go. Make we join now, dark. Chase fake drugs from all anybody where they deal on fake drugs. Join now, dark. Chase fake drugs from all. You where they deal on fake drugs. I'm sorry for you, even after about you go smell better. Millions of people don't die away because of the fake drugs they sell today. Yeah, I beg you, make we join the go. Make we join now, dark. Chase fake drugs from all. I say fake drugs, they kill you. Make we join now, dark. Chase fake drugs from all. Report anybody where they deal on fake drugs. Make we join now, dark. Chase fake drugs from all.
NAFDAC, safeguarding the health of the nation.
Like I say, na fake drug they cause this yamayama disease so. Chai. But NAFDAC talk say, but Tameles himself fit cause this thing where Oyibo people they call adverse drug reaction, where they spoil person body. Some medicine they good for some people body, but for another person body call chai kata fit shele. Na sake of this, NAFDAC bring one obonge program what them they call pharmacovigilance. Yes. Now him they say anytime you take medicine and your body they do you one kind, rush go tell doctor, pharmacist or anybody will give you the medicine, make it for check your body. He go fill it this form and then he go send them go give NAFDAC. Now this report go help NAFDAC prevent all the yamayama disease where adverse drug reaction they cause pharmacovigilance. Now him they say you must to shine your eye to take see say adverse drug reaction no pafuka your life. For more tori, contact National Pharmacovigilance Center, where they inside NAFDAC office for Abuja, with this telephone number, email address, and website where you they see so.
NAFDAC, safeguarding the health of the nation.
Welcome back to Discuss.
We are being joined by the Director General of the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, Alhaji Salihu Makarfi. Sir, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. You are welcome.
In an emergency situation like the recent plane crash we had, what should be the role of NEMA?
As you know, NEMA is an agency established by the federal government, being a coordinating agency of all disasters in Nigeria. We have other stakeholders in disaster management in Nigeria. NEMA is on ground to coordinate the activities of these stakeholders, because prior to establishment of NEMA, stakeholders in disaster management were just playing their roles randomly. So when a workshop was convened in the year 1998, the community at that conference was that there should be a structure on ground, an agency that can coordinate the activities of these stakeholders. That's the reason why this agency was established in the year 1999 to coordinate the activities of these stakeholders. Like the recent disaster, the air disaster, when it happens, we have an equipment here in our headquarters, the Mission Control Center. The equipment is served to detect alerts from the aircrafts or ship. Therefore, we liaise with NEMA, Nigerian Airspace Management Agency, which is the sole responsibility of aircraft in Nigeria. Like the recent disaster was reported to our Mission Control Center 10:30 in the night. So our staff went into action to detect where they could locate the beacon. So up to 12 midnight, we were not able to get until after 12 midnight, the staff in the Mission Control Center were able to detect an alert. But sometimes, sometimes we get false alerts. What we got from Kishi was a false alert, because most of our aircrafts in Nigeria are using, we have two types of beacons. We have the 121.5 megahertz, which is an analog, and then we have 406 megahertz, which is digital. Normally, the analog beacon gives false alert. That's why when we get such an alert, we send to NEMA to verify. It is not our responsibility to verify. Ours is to locate where the beacon is and then pass to NEMA. So it is the responsibility of NEMA to verify and inform us. It is when NEMA verifies, they inform us, then we go into action. So unfortunately, the alert we got at the initial stage was a false alert, the Kishi. And then later, still that same night, two alerts were discovered around the ocean. So the role that we would have played is we get a signal first to NEMA, NEMA will verify, and when NEMA verifies, then NEMA will definitely go and act. Unfortunately, up to morning, we are not able to get any information.
What is responsible for this false alert that you got? Is it because the aircrafts that...
No, probably, I told you, most of our aircrafts use this 121.5 megahertz beacon, of which is an analog. If it were the 406, which is a digital, definitely within minutes would have located what the aeroplane was.
So who should ensure that the aircraft use the digital alert system?
It is the NCCA. Okay. It is we keep on advising the NCCA to direct all Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority. Okay. It is their responsibility to oversee the aircraft operators. So we have been advising them to change from this 121.5 to 406 for easy detection of disaster. But unfortunately, The airlines are still using the 121.5, which is almost an outdated type of beacon, because by the year 2005, all over the world, this beacon 121.5 will no more be in existence except the 406 megahertz.
So what happened thereafter when you got the alert as a Lisa?
When it was later in the morning when our aircraft went to where we got the false alert, that is Kishi, and they searched around, they could not get anything. And then later when we got the information that this aircraft crashed in Lisa, then we directed our pilots, the search and rescue pilots, to go to Lisa. And within not up to an hour, they arrived there. Okay. Then we got the information from them.
Okay. Now, sir, I want to find out how equipped is your agency to manage emergency situations? Well,
to be frank, this agency was established in the year 1999, or rather 2000. So between 2000 and this time around, I think we have to commend the efforts of the present regime by, even establishing the agency and to make sure that the structure is on ground. But in terms of equipment, we have the Mission Control Center, which is serving to detect alerts from the aircrafts and ships. And then we have the helicopter. It's not easy to get all the equipment within a shortest period of time. But I assure you, with time, we'll have all the equipment needed for rescue.
Okay. Do you have similar network at the state level, NEMA?
Yeah, we have similar, but under the operation of the state governments, what we call state emergency management agencies. That's why
they are independent of NEMA.
They are independent of NEMA. Those, they belong to the state governments. Okay. We have been appealing to state governments to establish these structures: state emergency management agency, local government emergency committee, and even up to the community level. If we have these structures, I assure you, probably this issue of delay in getting information of this aircraft disaster wouldn't have happened, because if we have at the community level, because this aircraft crashed within a certain community, and those community really hard when this aircraft crashed. If there had been something of that nature, they would have informed the authority in good time that same night. But unfortunately, we don't have these structures on ground. That's why we have been appealing to the state government to set the structures, both state, local government, and even the community level.
If the state government sets it independent of NEMA, will you still be able to cooperate and coordinate activities?
No, of course. Even presently, the state where they have these structures on ground, we have a very good working relationship, because, like, when a disaster happens, it happens in a particular community. And that particular community happens to be within a particular local government area. And that local government area happens to be within a particular state. So unless if a disaster is beyond the resources of the community, local government or state government, that's when the federal government comes in. Okay. So they have a responsibility. Disaster management anywhere in the world, not only in Nigeria, is not for one single authority. It's for everybody. Federal, state, local government, community, even individual, even you, the press, are stakeholders in disaster management, because you need to enlighten our people. Like in Nigeria, most of our disasters, I keep on saying, are man-made disasters, so we can avoid them.
All right, sir. Before we leave, one last question before we leave the plane crash issue. Should we now attribute the delay in detection of the location of this crash to outdated detection system, and is actually the the Nigerian Civil Aviation system that has the responsibility to make sure these things are upgraded?
Well, as far as I know, we have played our role. When we were alerted 10:30 in the night, we were able to do our job within our limit, that is by detecting certain alerts in certain areas, of which we pass to NEMA. it is the responsibility of NEMA to verify and let us know. Because this issue of delay, I could say, well, I cannot put pushing a blame on anybody, but a sort of communication gap
between NEMA
and other agencies, yes.
Okay. How do we bridge such gap in future?
Well, definitely we have to improve on our own equipments, and we have to not only NEMA, all the agencies concerned. We have to improve on our own equipment, and we have to improve on our own attitudes towards our job.
All right. Apart from emergency situations such as the plane crash, what other situations in what other areas do NEMA intervene? Well,
as I said, NEMA will only intervene when there is a national disaster, like the one that has just happened. It's a national disaster. Like the bomb blast in Lagos was a national disaster. The crisis in Plateau was a national disaster, and that of Kaduna was also a national disaster. So if the only situation where NEMA will come in is if a disaster happens in a particular state and it is beyond the resources of the state government, then that's where NEMA comes in. And don't forget, victims of disasters are never compensated all over the world. You could only be giving a succor to bring you back to life. A typical example, if a state loses, say, about 100 million naira in a particular disaster, I think NEMA doesn't have to be there, because it is something that the state government will use certain resources. If the state government can use, say, about 10 million naira to procure some items to give relief to the victims, I think it's okay. You are not going to pay compensation. So unless if it is a national disaster, the ones I have mentioned, that's where NEMA comes in.
Okay. How about flooding?
Flooding, it all depends on the magnitude.
Okay.
It all depends on the magnitude. If the magnitude is so enormous, then definitely NEMA will come in.
Okay. Who should alert NEMA in emergency situations?
Like what happens in a particular state, like state, when there's a disaster in a particular state, we see through we get our information through radio, television, and newspapers from other states, and then the states normally write to us officially, informing us that there is a disaster in the state. But we expect, before even writing to NEMA, the state government must have done something to the victims of disaster.
Okay. Can individuals send distress call to NEMA?
Of course, yes. We have some dedicated lines. We have some dedicated lines that could be used to alert us when there is a disaster.
Okay, you have some lines that could be used.
Yes.
Like in a bomb blast in Lagos, somebody can put a call through to NEMA.
No, of course, yes.
Okay.
Anybody, even if you use your mobile phone and say there is a disaster somewhere, will respond
immediately.
Yes.
Okay. What would you consider your challenges in this job?
Yeah, our challenges here is one. Our people really need to be educated. Like when people came out apportioning blame on NEMA on this air disaster, well, I don't blame them. Some people are saying their own minds blindly, not knowing what are the differences between National Emergency Management Agency and the Nigerian Airspace Management Agency. We have different roles. So some people really misconstrue the difference between NEMA and NAMA. NAMA, they have their own role. NEMA will have our own role. In a situation where there is a disaster, each particular stakeholder is supposed to play a certain role. That is one of the challenges that I want Nigerians to understand. Two, the issue of funding. Some well-to-do citizens can also as well in disaster and contribute in disaster management, not only federal or state government. It's beyond the resources of both the federal and the state. So there is need for all Nigerians to put our hands on deck and come out and assist our citizens. So disaster management in Nigeria is for everybody, not for a particular government, be it state, federal, or local.
So all hands should be on deck
to contribute immensely to disaster management. Like I say, you, the media, you have a role to play in educating our people. The issue of flooding, we can, by making our people enlightened, most of this disaster could be reduced. If you go and build a house on a waterway, what do you expect to happen? Like what happened in Port Harcourt recently. You know, we have to follow our building code. We have to make sure that our dams are kept in good condition. Drainages are built. Without all this, definitely we are bound to have flood. Likewise, the fire outbreak. Like the fire outbreak, you find most of it is from negligence. You must make sure, like in the market, before you leave your store, all electricals are switched off, because sometimes NEPA could take off light. If you leave it on, by the time NEPA brings back light, power, there might be problem. So we need to educate our people. And for people putting candle before they sleep, that is dangerous. So I think there is need for us, for everybody, including you, the media, particularly the electronic media, that reaches each and every nook corner of this corner of this country.
Okay, in an emergency situation like the one you mentioned, where you have a fire outbreak, what is NEMA supposed to do?
Well, it all depends on the type of fire, as I said. Like the helicopter we have, it can go to uprising, or this high-rising building, to quench fire. So there's need for, like fire services are mostly under the state government. So it is the responsibility of state government to make sure that they acquire enough to fight fire outbreaks.
So I think you have to address one or two issues some people have raised, since you are talking about enlightening the public. Some have argued that in this case like the one we had, that NEMA should have sent helicopter that night to detect the location of the craft.
Well, my reply is we have not even located the actual scene of the accident. How could the helicopter go? That is one. Because when we get the alert, we pass to NEMA. NEMA is supposed to verify and say, yes, it happened so place.
Then they pass back to you?
They pass it back to us.
Okay.
Then we get prepared. And then secondly, helicopters are not allowed to fly in the night in Nigeria.
Is it because it's not safe to fly at night?
No, I think it's probably with the establishment of NEMA, there ought to be a special arrangement whereby if there is anything of this nature, we could fly. Because our helicopter was ready, but we have to wait until morning.
Because you're not supposed to fly at night.
No, of course.
So it should be for the lawmakers to look into that.
No, of course, that's what the lawmakers are trying to do now. That they have to change some aspects of our act.
Mm-hmm. So how many helicopters do you have?
Well, we have only one, which virtually I could say is nothing, because naturally we are supposed to have a helicopter in each and every zone. We have about 6 zones in the country.
Well, you have just one.
We have just one. We have to commend the administration of President Olusegun Obasanjo by even mayor purchasing one.
Yes. So if something like tsunami happens in Nigeria or the hurricane, can we cope with it?
Well, as soon
as
we don't pray for that, but disaster can happen at any time without giving any notice. But let me assure you, by the time we got the news of the last tsunami, quickly we started putting in a contingency plan. We held a meeting in Kaduna with some experts. So there's now a contingency plan, and we are developing the contingency plan. By the grace of God, if there's anything of that nature, we'll be able to do something.
Does NEMA give relief material to victims?
No, of course, yes. We do give victims of disaster relief materials. It all depends on the type of disaster. Some we do give to the state government to give to the victims, and some we go directly and give to the victims.
In Niger famine, did you intervene?
Well, that of Niger, there was a special presidential committee which was headed by the Speaker, House of Representatives. We happen to be member. I happen to be a member of that committee. Yes, the federal government and Nigerians really gave a big assistance to Niger Republic.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We'll bring you the concluding part of this interview same time next week. Keep a date with us.